Hello, this is Michelle.
Hey, Michelle, it's Glenn.
Hi, Glenn. Sorry we've had so much trouble connecting.
It's all right. We're both busy people, so it's all good. Um, okay, so could you give me just the talking points as far as what kind of transaction was it? How did she help you and stuff like that? As far as what left an
Alrighty.
impression.
Sure. Um, we were retiring and hoping to live closer to my daughter and the baby, our grandson. But until the grandson was born, we really had never even thought about that area, about living in the Central California, the Central Valley. We had always been in Southern California, and our other kids were in Southern California, so we didn't know a lot about it. And Diana walked us through nearly 2 years of not just searching for a home, but searching for an area. And she was just tireless in, listening to us. We were moving from a 10-acre ranch, and so initially what we thought we wanted was to stay more rural and to, have that. And we just went through, we looked in Three Rivers, we looked everywhere between Visalia and Three Rivers, and kept creeping closer and closer. And it was just through her patience and her showing us, and in the meantime, then my daughter bought a house in Exeter, and she would drive us from my daughter's house to the places we were looking at and kind of helped give us a perspective on the distance as well as, and it was just a very long process of us coming around to the realization that if we were moving up there to be closer to the grandkids and, have more hands-on, that what we thought we wanted wasn't what we wanted. And she just really, it was almost like she was able to listen to us and look inside and know us better than we knew ourselves, and took the time to let us figure out what I think she saw pretty early. And eventually we ended up buying a house in town 5 minutes from my daughter, and we're thrilled. But I mean, it was really a process because we wanted to be closer, but we initially weren't willing to give up the rural lifestyle that we had enjoyed for 20 years. And she just gave us enough time to really think that through and think through our motivations and think through the stage we are, in life now. 20 years ago, we were, in a whole different place than we are in our retirement years. And just to be able to kind of gently guide us to thinking about things like, okay, my husband's 70, and what about, if you're way up here in Three Rivers and you're, 40 minutes away and there's health issues and, just all the different things that are coming with this stage of our life. And she's not in that stage. I mean, this was just strictly her trying to help us work through and end up where we really should be. And she did. And I mean, it was, I felt like she was almost as much therapist as she was realtor, but not, not in the way of like, anything intrusive. It's that she really listens with an emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can listen to somebody and hear them say, well, we want a rural lifestyle and we would rather, live up in Three Rivers or, one of those more rural areas. And at the same time, we're saying, well, we're moving up here to be closer to my daughter. And she was just kind of able to put all that together better than we were and give us time to really sort through. And you just don't find a lot of people with that level of patience,
Sure, sure.
I mean, she could have probably sold us something a lot earlier. I mean, we saw places that we liked, but she would say, okay, now, you said you wanted this and this house has all that, but she would always bring up these other factors. now, we drove from Shiloh's house, and I would go, oh, yeah, how long did that take? Because, we looked at 3 or 4 places, and she would show us. And anyway, she just really helped us to achieve what we wanted in life, not just what we wanted in the 4 walls and the roof.
Right. Right.
If that makes sense.
No, it totally does. I mean, you're saying, that basically, and the fact that it took, like you said, she could have, pushed you into something, sooner, but now that you've took the time, you have total peace of mind that this is the property for you.
We don't have there's not a single second thought about the final choice that we made at all.
Right. And that's
So,
awesome. I mean, how many times I'm not sure how many properties you've bought, but sometimes, like I watch some of these, there's a New York show, a show about New York, and these called Next Step Realty, and these agents, they're like really hard pressing these people to make a decision today. And it's just like, that's just crazy. And so the fact that she, not only didn't do that, but gave you, a lot of attention for, you said 2 years is what it was?
I think it was nearly 2 years. Let's see. We started looking, I'm going to say around February, well, maybe close to a little more than a year and a half.
Yeah, well, still, that's I mean.
But it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, I honestly think she would have hung in there with us, if it had taken even longer than it did. But what eventually happened is if you come into it and you already have absolutely you've got a job in Visalia and your family's in Visalia and you want a house in Visalia, but because we were coming into it with more of a blank slate, the fact that she helped us color in all of the picture, you see what I'm
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
what I'm saying? She really went the extra mile so that, I'm in my 60s, my husband's 70, as I said. Hopefully this will be the last place we ever have to buy. I mean, hopefully this is it. We're near one of our children. We've retired. And it seemed like she was just really patient with us, sorting through and figuring out what we really needed for this whole stage of our life, not just what we want this year or the next 2 years. And it was difficult for us to give up, mentally to give up, as well as, the actual physical process of giving up a rural lifestyle where we had space and acreage. And, when you live out like that, where we had lived before, you couldn't even see another house.
Mm-hmm.
And so, our animals, we had lots of animals, horses, and, they could roam. And now, we're in a house in town, and our dogs the poor dogs are having more of an adjustment trying to figure out, what are the fences all about? They're like, my one dog that never wanted in the house never goes outside, because he just kind of goes outside and he looks at the fences, and it just does not compute for him. I swear to God, he just keeps waiting for us to go home, meaning back where he had lived his whole life. But yeah, we were able, it just took that much time for us to really sort through where we are and what we need going forward, which is going to be different than what we needed what we're going to need the next 20 years is very different from the last 20 years.
Sure.
And she just seemed to be very patient and very aware of that process, that we were buying, and I don't mean a final home in any kind of, like fatalistic sort of way.
No, I understand.
But when you're in your middle years, I mean, most people buy and sell a number of houses over time. I mean, we certainly lived in a number of houses, but at this stage, barring something completely unforeseen at this time, this may very well be where we live out the rest of our lives. And she was just very, very patient with listening to us and giving us the time to sort through, because we kind of had to give up a lifestyle we had enjoyed in order to have what really makes more sense for us. And I don't mean like she was a therapist. She let us do it, but she showed us what we were asking to see. And at the same time, she's bringing back into our focus, okay, so you're moving up here to be closer to your daughter and your grandson, and this house is 40 minutes away. So is that what you have in mind when you're thinking closer? And of course, we were coming from 3.5 hours away, and it was just sort of a process for us to start to realize, yeah, no, that's not really going to be how far. We don't really want to be that far away. And where we are now is, I mean, it's Exeter. Do you know Exeter?
No, but your daughter told me a lot. She said that it's got that small time feel. What do you like about Exeter?
It's a population of maybe 10,000. It's a tiny, tiny little town, right at the foothill before you go up into the Sierras and all of that. And so, yeah, we're now in the same town where she can just bring my grandson over for a couple of hours. And what we were first trying to do was not going to work. And I think Diana could sense that we were trying to keep what we had before and sort of edge it into something more workable. And I think she could just see that we weren't going to be happy. It wasn't going to really satisfy. We weren't going to feel like we had felt at our old home, and we weren't going to be as close or as accessible to the grandkids and the activities. She still listened. And, I mean, she was listening to us with better ears than we were listening to ourselves, because we were still trying to keep one foot in the past and move the other foot into the future. And she just gave us enough time to sort through all that and finally say, you know what, that chapter of our life of living out, in the country and away from everybody was wonderful. And that's just not where we need to be for the next chapter. And we had to just completely let go of that, and it took time. But she led us there. I don't mean like a therapist. She led us there more like a friend. Okay, so you're saying this and you want that, and then, she would just drive us there and point out, well, so if you wanted to just pop over for something, you're 40 minutes away. Mm-hmm. It's not really a good distance to just, pop over to see the grandson for 5 minutes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then how did the transaction go? Did it go smooth? Was there any hiccups that she helped with, or?
Yes, there were hiccups. The people we were buying from were in a real emotional trauma. It was a divorce situation that had completely blindsided the wife. She was in the house with the kids, and yeah, there were some kind of odd things. Oh, when escrow closed, they hadn't fully moved out.
Oh, wow.
And so we get there, escrow's closed, title's changed, we got the keys, and she's there with her kids and her dad, and the garage is still full of stuff, and, and it was just Diana and her agent were able to work together, and we were not upset about it at all. Diana did an excellent job of helping us to understand, people are people. It isn't, well, and I mean, I guess who we are too, we're just not I don't care, I want what I want. That's not who we are. We were more than, we were willing to listen to what's going on and to be understanding. And because my daughter was there, we were able to stay with her. We were able to make it work, and she worked behind the scenes with the agent, and, they got everything done very quickly. It wasn't a long, drawn-out thing, but she worked tirelessly, just on all the little details. And, well, and we had made a real low offer based on their asking price. but we felt like their asking price was just really, really out of line. And Diana just worked with them endlessly to realize, well, the reason this house has been on the market for a long time is you're not even getting any interest because your price is too high. And their agent didn't agree and obviously had it priced where she thought it was worth. And, and Diana just worked with her and worked with us. And I said, well, this is what we're going to pay, but we're not going to ask them to do anything. And so that was what's like, well, if we come in, I mean, it's like any house. Every house has things that need to be fixed and things that need to be upgraded. And so she said, okay, well, if you're willing to do those things, then we'll just stick to our price. And so, of course, they were coming back with, well, we want a higher price and we'll fix X, Y, and Z. We don't care about X, Y, and Z. This is our offer, and you can just walk away. And, of course, I think that Diana's understanding of the situation, that this is a woman who's been abandoned with 2 young children whose hearts have been broken, they didn't, she really didn't want to have to fix up the house. And I think Diana was, again, just a very, very, I was going to say good judge of character, but it's more than just a judge of character. It's an understanding of human nature that, bottom line, I think Diana just understood that this lady needed to move on, and getting top dollar was not as important as getting out of there, and helped us negotiate what we thought was a fair price. And then she could just move on without fixing up a house that was filled with heartbreak for her.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I just think she does a very good job of understanding people and your needs. I mean, your home is a base for your life. It's not just, it's not like your closet is a place you put clothes. Your house isn't just a place you put your body. It's where you live, and it's your base, and everything goes from there. And that's what I was saying about the way she worked with us. I think that she cut through all the things we said and found the kernel that was the most important. We were moving to be close to our daughter and our grandson. And so we're looking 40 minutes away. And we're saying, well, we really like this area, and we really like, having acreage, and we really like all these other things. And she was able, she kept her eye on that ball and kept bringing it back just gently and saying, okay, well, let's go from, let's meet at your daughter's house, and we'll drive to this property. She didn't hit us over the head with it. She didn't try to change our minds. She just showed us, okay, this is where you're going to be, and this is where she is. And, yeah, this is a lovely property, and it's everything you said, but why are you moving up here? I mean, and not that she was saying this, but by her actions, that we were able to think it through and go, well, wait a minute, we're moving up here to be closer, but we're still going to be 40 minutes away. So being able to do the things that we were envisioning, just drop over after work for a little while or have them to dinner. When somebody's got kids, they're not going to come to your house for dinner if they've got a 40-minute drive to get there, a 40-minute drive to get home after they've worked all day. So just all the little things so really you're only going to see them on weekends. Kind of going, well, that's not what we had in mind. But she just did it in a way that allowed us to evolve and take the time to sort through our priorities and go, okay, she's right. The kernel of the whole thing is we want to be close to them. So it's not about, do we need this acreage? And, and she would just bring up things too, like, well, are you going to be paying to have upkeep? Are you going to do that yourself? And yeah, you can do it now, but are you going to be able to do it in 5 years? And are you thinking of moving again? Just those kinds of thought-provoking questions. And because my husband's quite a bit older than I am, 7 years, getting me thinking along lines I had never thought, which is, well, he does a lot of the maintenance on the grounds. If he passes away, I've either got to pay to have all that done or I've got to move. And then I'm having to do all that alone. And so she just really helped us sort through where we were in life and what we were really trying to get. And I can tell you, 2 years ago when we started this process, if she'd come to us with the house that we're now thrilled to live in and said, how about this one, we would have not even looked at it. It was a process of us having to, sort through all of the things that we thought we wanted to find what was really the most crucial thing. And hopefully it wouldn't take someone else as long as it took us. But that's how long it took. And I honestly believe it wouldn't have mattered. She would have continued to show us houses and offer her little, pieces of insight until we ultimately did decide what we wanted and would have made a happy decision. And we haven't had second thought one. We absolutely are convinced that we considered everything that we thought we wanted and made what is ultimately the best decision for us.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the, because a lot of people, they get with an agent that, just wants to push them into a property, and then they're done, and then all of a sudden a year, 2 years, they're like, wow, we really didn't do our homework, or we didn't really get the full service that they see their friends getting, and it's one of those things because the longer that it's not just living in a house, it's being happy, and if you're happier, then you stay longer and you just enjoy it more. Where
right.
It's just nice
right.
that she put herself in your shoes, put your needs in front of hers, and just worked it.
Well, she listens with a sort of active intelligence. And what I mean by that is, you're giving someone a list of, we wanted it to be rural, and we wanted this, and we wanted single story. And, you're giving this whole list of things. But she listens with an intelligence that prioritizes when maybe you're too close to it. The whole thing of can't see the forest for the trees. When you're in the middle of it, you're sitting there with your wish list, but having a difficult time prioritizing. And she was able over and over to come back to you're moving, and without saying it, she just would kind of nudge, well, why don't you look at this one, or, this one's only this far. And what she eventually was able to do is help us to see that if we only want to buy one more house, not that there's a crystal ball and we can know for sure, but our goal was to buy a house for this stage of our life and to be closer to our daughter and to prioritize all the other things about being rural. We ended up with a house on the very outskirts of town. Our backyard looks at orange orchards. So, no, we're not, way away, and we don't have acreage, but we actually only have one neighbor.
Wow.
So she was able to incorporate some of what we were, some of the ambiance that we were looking for of feeling like we lived out in the country when we're right in the city limits,
That's
but
awesome.
We're at the very edge, and, and so she really listened and took all that, took all of the factors, but she, I think, was able to prioritize better than we were in the thick of it. You just, like anybody else, you want everything you want. And she was able to kind of cut through it and see that, okay, you're moving all the way up here to be closer to your daughter. You just going to see them, Sunday afternoon for brunch? Is that, and she just kind of gently led us to seeing, okay, well, if you do what you're saying you want to do, you want to go to this more rural area, you want to live up, closer to Three Rivers or, something like that, then you're looking at, okay, you're going to maybe see them on weekends. And we're scratching our heads and going, well, no, we want to be able to see them anytime we want. And what we have now is we see them any day of the week that we want. We may get together for 5 minutes. We may, get together and run to Visalia for a little bit of shopping. She can drop her son off if he's not feeling great while she does her shopping because that's what I was trying to say. Exeter is so tiny. I was going to say we're 5 minutes away, but I think that would be a really high estimate. It's just such a tiny town that we've already, and this isn't something we had thought about ahead of time, but we're already finding little things. Like I just said to her one day, hey, you guys never get a date night. Why don't we pick Wednesday? And Wednesday after work, you guys go to dinner or just stay home if you want to. Just bring your son over here. We'll keep him till bedtime on Wednesdays. And so we've already started to establish, just little routines like that. If she's going to run to Visalia for something, she may call me and say, hey, do you need to go? And I can go with her, which we couldn't have done if we were 40 minutes away up in Three Rivers. Just a lot of little things like that I think Diana was listening to us and we're saying, well, we're moving up here to be closer to our daughter and our grandkids. And she's thinking to herself, and then you're still going to be 40 minutes away. But our vision was more clouded by trying to keep the lifestyle we had had, which was very, very rural, very private. And, life is about change and compromise. And she worked with us while we processed that really isn't going to we're going to get here and then we're going to still feel like we're too far away, to just pop in and out and be involved. And so what we ended up with is exactly perfect. We've had not one single second thought. We got a house that the floor plan suited what we wanted and the location suited what we wanted. And we're now having exactly what we really wanted, but it took us some time to get the details right.
Sure.
And I think about that all the time, how different it would have been if the first house we liked on the first outing that we went, if we had bought that, we really liked the house. And it had all the rural aspects that we liked, but it would have been 40 minutes away. And we would not have had, Wednesday nights with our grandson and the shopping trips. And, you just, all of that would have taken a degree of coordination. And now we can just live spontaneously. And I think she already knew my daughter from having sold them the house. And I think she had kind of gotten to know our family well enough that she was seeing what we wanted when, like I said, we just weren't prioritizing. Come on, we all want everything, right? You want $1 million mansion and you want it, whatever. But to be able to prioritize, and she just helped us to do that. They say location, 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 right? And what we thought was we need to be out away from everybody, and she was able to create something that satisfies that feeling with us and yet gives us all the other things because we're, in fact, in town.
Right. Well,
but yeah, I credit her with having really good insight into, the expression active listening.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you've ever,
Sure,
it's a term in psychology. Yeah. But yeah, she does really good active listening because she doesn't just hear what you're saying, but she kind of processes it with the whole picture. And that's not really something you can teach. I guess you can teach it if you have a degree. If you want to go to school for 10 years, you can get a degree in psychology. But I think she just naturally is able to truly care and truly listen to everything that's being said and then understand from that the lifestyle you're after. If that kind of follows.
Yeah.
So, ultimately we ended up with a house on the outskirts of town. We've got orange groves behind us, and we're on a kind of a curve, so there's only one neighbor on one side, and we're really close to the freeway. So if we just want to hop on not the freeway, but the highway, and go up to the lake or get up in the mountains or get completely away from town, we can be completely away in 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
So, we could take a walk or ride a bike, and so she was able to get that feeling for us, and yet pull it back into what really was the top priority, which was, being able to spend time with our grandson and our daughter. And they both work. We're retired. We wanted to be of help to them. And again, how much help if we're 40 minutes away?
Right.
So, yeah, I just felt like she really listened, and she showed us a lot of properties. We drove up here a number of times and looked, over and over and over again, and finally convinced ourselves that she would find us the right place. And, so we went ahead and put our property up and sold it. And then, she helped us find the right place. So couldn't have been more pleased. I was, aware of the process when she helped my daughter, and my daughter is so thrilled with her house. It's her dream house, and we are exactly where we need to be at this stage of our life. And, buying a home is different from buying a house. If you're in some kind of business where you're going to get transferred every 3 or 4 years. I grew up in the military. My dad was Air Force, and we moved every 2.5 to 3 years, my whole life. The house didn't really matter. But when someone's buying a home that they're going to stay in and put roots down, it makes a huge difference. And I think she can tell the difference. When somebody's just needing a house, she can help them go out and find a house. She told me about somebody that called from out of state and was only going to be here for 1 day, and she, figured out what houses would fit, and the gal bought the first house they looked at. Diana, again, I think she listened well enough that she knew what this woman wanted. A woman flies out here, looks at one house, puts in an offer, and buys it. But then she's got someone like us that it's not that cut and dry.
Sure.
And she was willing to spend the time, and by God, she earned every penny of her commission with us.
That's funny. Well, she also Diana also told me.
Let me just say.
Go ahead.
Well, let me just say one other thing too. Despite all the time that she put in with us, she never ever made us feel like we had gone past that point of what was acceptable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That point where the realtors are like, well, you've seen everything there is here. If you're going to buy something, just that you start to sense that little bit of impatience. And we just never got that from her. She just always said from the first day till the last day, when you move in, I want I want this to be a very positive experience for you all the way around. I want to be a little part of that. And she was true to that.
That's good. Well, it's something else that she brought up in my notes was that you were not really liking to use real estate agents. Like you weren't really like she said that basically you told her that you didn't normally like to use real estate agents. Was that right? Do I have that right?
Oh, that's absolutely right. I did house flipping for a while, and bought and sold a lot of houses in the Bakersfield area, and the place that we had down south, I sold that without a real estate agent. I'm an attorney by profession, so I figured I can figure out the paperwork, and I know where to get the forms, and if all real estate agents were like Diana, they earn their fee, and I don't mean by the amount of time. It's not it's not because she showed us however many houses and she showed somebody else one house. It's the attention to what you're really after. I don't know a better way to put it than that. But she really understands, and she's like watching for things. Like she would call and say, hey, there's somebody in our agency that has this place. It's not on the market yet, blah, 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 blah. It fits your criteria. And you just felt like everything was being processed through her filter of her clients and their needs, rather than just sitting back and waiting for you to call her and say, "Oh, I saw a for sale sign over on A Street. How about show me that house?" I mean, you and I both know that's what a lot of them do.
Right. So you think that the like not only her, but the fact that she has this modern broker interagent connection is a good service for people.
Right, because yeah, absolutely, because she's getting information, and of course it depends on how fast the market is moving or the particular market a given customer is looking in. Market may be slow in one place and popping hot in another neighborhood, but because she's getting the information quickly, through her contacts and through her office, there were places she was showing us that didn't even have a sign up yet. It wasn't even in the multiples yet.
Yeah. And you think that's an advantage, right? I mean,
very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
Again, if you have very general needs, it may not be as important. But when you're looking for things we had very specific criteria. And so when she would see something that met that, there aren't that many properties that we could have really been happy with. I mean, we looked at other houses that, oh gosh, we liked the house and it was close to my daughter, but it was right in the middle of a neighborhood. You have like 5 neighbors, 3 in the back and 1 on each side, and then you walk out your front door and you're looking at another row of houses. For us, that would have been a very claustrophobic kind of thing. So she's looking at us and going, okay, these people need a very specific type of, not just the house, but the location, needs to be near the daughter, it needs all these things, and to be able to see those when they pop up.
Or before they
get listed. There aren't that many,
Right, and before they get listed, right? I mean, that's what...
And before they even got listed, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the one we ended up with, it was listed way outside of our price range. And we weren't looking there at all. But again, just because of her experience, she looked at how long it had been on the market. And she comes back to us and she says, look, I think you might be really interested in this house, but don't be afraid to make a lowball offer. It's been on the market a long time. She talked to the agent. She comes back. She goes, it's a divorce situation. And, of course, you never know. It can be that one of the two is holding out and, you're going to get nowhere. But she and I Diana has the same philosophy that I do about life, and that is there's no harm in asking. If someone says no, you're no worse off. So she said, so you go in and offer what you can afford to pay, and if they say no, they say no. But if you don't offer, you don't know if they'll come down or not. And that's exactly what we did. We looked at the house. We came in at our top. In fact, we even went a little over our budget just because it met so many of our criteria. And we said, okay, we'll pull money from other places. We'll make this work. We offered them the top we could offer. It was way below their asking price. But it had been on the market, and they had not had, of course you don't know this in the beginning, they had not had another offer. People weren't even looking at it. They had it overpriced. But if she hadn't been willing to go ahead and look in that range and talk to the agent and get the story and come back to us and say, look, I don't want to waste your time looking at properties outside of your range, but with all these factors in mind, they might take a lowball offer. It might be that so we went in, we went in and we are like, wow, this is so far over our budget. And, we figure it out. But if she hadn't, you know what I'm saying? If she hadn't looked at that and gotten that information and come back to us and said, they're listed at that, but they've already come down once. No one's looking at it. I talked to the agent. No one's looking. They've had no offers. Don't be afraid to make that lowball offer. And yeah, we went back and forth. I mean, they kept trying to get the price up and trying to get the price up, and we just couldn't go any higher. And at the end of the day, they wanted to sell. And that was her job. That's her job, to understand how to negotiate a deal like that.
Right.
And talked to the other agent and said, look, my people are coming up over their budget because they really like to have it. And we can't go any, we can't negotiate any higher. We came in, our opening offer was the absolute top dollar we could do. And, handled the back and forth. And, because there's also an art in not offending somebody so much that they'll turn you down just because they're offended. And she was able to convey to them that we're not coming in with a lowball offer because we want to be offensive. We're actually going over budget to make you this offer because we think that much of the property. So there's no insult here. This is just where we are, and ultimately made it work.
Yep. Well, it sounds awesome. I mean, you've given me so much to use, because we're going to take the conversation that we had here, and I'm going to be taking the sound bites from the conversation and putting it into marketing material. So you'll see a video, and it'll have your audio, like a little sound bite here, sound bite there, and because she's got a way with people that is above average. I've been doing this for 21 years. I have 4,500 real estate agents across the country, and I do interviews like this. And I'd say that your daughters and yours and a lady that I talked to earlier today, you guys are saying stuff that's like way above what I normally
Diana has emotional intelligence. I don't know if you've ever read about it, but there are people that break intelligence. There are people who are, there's mathematics and there's kinesthetic intelligence. Sports figures have that. Well, she has emotional intelligence, and that's just not something you can buy or teach or anything else. It's something I think, at least to some extent, you have to be born with, and that's the ability to listen to people and she listens with her whole mind. She hears your voice, your words, she processes it in context, and that's what I think she has. I think she's just got a very high degree of emotional intelligence, and she uses it brilliantly in what she does.
Yeah, no.
And you know what she has said to me? She has said, I'm not just selling houses. I'm trying to make people's lives happier. And see, I think that's the difference. She's not looking at what's my commission on this. She's looking at the end of the day, have I made somebody happier? See, that's all about emotional intelligence. That's what feeds her soul. Is she can look at us, and when I say, oh my God, we're so happy here, she feeds off of that.
Right.
Well, what more could you want in an agent than somebody who wants you to be happy? Your happiness makes her happy. And that's my understanding of what emotional intelligence is all about. And I was talking to her about just little things we've been fixing and changing at the house. And her reaction was, oh, no. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, well, I wanted you to be happy. I said, we're deliriously happy. We just want to change the color of the dining room wall.
That's funny.
But that's what was so important to her, was that we would move in and that she would have a happy life through us. Yeah. A kind of borrowed thing that she can drive up and down streets and picture people in their house having happy lives, and she had a hand in that. And I think that is really more the payback for her than anything else.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. This really helps, and we're going to be taking this recording and, like I said, cutting it up into pieces and putting it in marketing material. So when they're done, I'll send you some so you can see how you're really helping her with this. This really makes a difference. So I want to thank you.
Well, good. Good. All right. Well, I'm happy to help. She deserves it.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, thank
All
you
right,
so
Glenn.
much.
Well, thank